Welcome to the Peace and AI podcast. We are two AI nerds and friends living through the most interesting time in human history. My name is Blaze. I'm a software engineer, XYC founder. I work in enterprise AI.
And I'm Nick. I'm a doctor. I built and sold a healthcare AI company. We both meditate. We take our well-being seriously, but we also take our technology pretty seriously. And we're both in the AI industry, and we love to talk about this shit pretty much.
So what you can expect to hear from us is basically recent announcements, our take on the technology, how we are using this to force multiply our efforts, and how we're finding peace in this ultra-stimulating, fast-moving, and unprecedented time.
Awesome. And today we're going to actually dive into a few of the things that happened in the last week in AI. So there's a lot that happens every week. We want to give you guys a quick summary of some of the big news items, as well as our hot or maybe cold takes on each of them. And then we're going to wrap up with a peace block, where we talk about some of our experiences with peace this week specifically, and some tips and tricks, and go from there. So we hope you guys enjoy.
All right.
Let's get it. So, okay, first item is, if you guys have been on social media at all in the last week, is this thing called Moltbot, which started out being called Claude, and now it's called OpenClaw. So it's this lobster bot, basically.
Space lobster.
Space lobster. And if you don't know what it is, or if you do know what it is, a 30-second primer, Blaze. Give us a quick topic, a quick primer on this.
Well, last week we talked about the most important thing to learn if you're looking to get enabled with AI right now and use it to its fullest extent are these CLI agents, basically tools that work inside of your computer. And what OpenClaw is it's a CLI agent that takes a few different interesting things where it keeps memory, so it holds some context over conversations, it learns you, and it can work through your entire computer, so access files, work within applications, and it does this all locally on your machine, and it's open source.
So the reason I think this is interesting is because, like, we talked about the power of Claude Code, and Moltbot is basically Claude Code with hands, like Lobster hands. And what that means is it's given the average person that's not technical, that doesn't know anything about Claude Code or how to use the terminal, the ability to set up this AI system that has memory, that remembers things about you, but then you can give access to certain parts of your computer, like your email, your calendar, different apps, and it allows you to let it do stuff on its own. So as a quick, really weird thing that happened in the last week is these Moltbots that have been created by people ended up congregating on their own social network called the Moltbook, which is like a Facebook / Reddit for these autonomous agents, pretty much. And they started saying some crazy shit, and they started doing some crazy stuff. If you're interested, go check out Moltbook. But it just shows you the autonomy and the level of kind of chaos that these types of agents can create.
Mm. And I think it's a natural transition to talk about, because it's open source. It has tens of thousands of stars on GitHub now. It's gaining new integrations every day, and it has a skills community. So like integrations with new applications are coming out all the time, which is quite a cool thing to happen in the industry.
I'm going to be very blunt with this. I don't think you should use it if you don't know what you're doing. And if you don't know anything about computer security, don't use Moltbot, because it's a security nightmare. You're going to be hacked. I'm going to be very straight up. And there was this guy that was a white hat hacker that basically wrote an article on X, and he's like, basically, I've been eating all these lobster souls of all these people that created these Moltbots, and they didn't secure any of their servers, because you need a server. Yeah, you need a server to run a Moltbot. None of it was secured because the actual software itself isn't designed for security. And he basically was able to get everybody's credentials, your passwords, your API keys, but because he was a good person, he just wrote about it as a warning, and he didn't really mess you up. But it's very dangerous. Don't just listen to this or listen to the news, set up your Moltbot, give it access to everything. You really, really need to know what you're doing, and there will be products, I think why this is significant is it's really put this type of product in the hands of people, like an autonomous agent that can do stuff across your computer, but it's not done in a secure way. So that's my warning to people, is it's cool. It's probably one of the coolest, most hyped things that you'll hear about in AI in January, but it's a security nightmare waiting to happen. So that's my hot take. But
I just think it's awesome that open source technology is coming out that is going to be able to do a lot of work. And if something like this takes off, it's a great thing for software in general.
I think big tech companies are going to follow, and this is the next topic, which is Google personal intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is Google's first kind of foray into this Moltbot territory. And the reason, so what personal intelligence is, do you want to give a quick primer on what Google did and what it is?
Well, Google is trying to make the AI as helpful as it possibly can for you. So basically giving it access to your Gmail, your photos, like basically your interactions with the Chrome browser, and personalizing this for you so it learns you over time.
Yeah.
So continual learning, I guess, is the term, but continually we're learning from a context perspective rather than changing the model itself.
And so, I think that's exactly right. Is like personal intelligence is how do we create an AI that's not just a conversation that you go into once and then it just struggles to remember anything about you or what you're doing. And that was the magic of Moltbot that I think a lot of people were like, holy shit, this AI actually knows me. It's gathering context on me over time, and every time I give it a task, it's just gonna know what to do because it's already figured out who I am. And so Google's launching the first version of what I think is eventually going to be their Moltbot in personal intelligence. And I think they're going to allow it to integrate more and more into their ecosystem. But for everybody around here, you're going to start to notice that Google might get a little bit more creepily aware of who you are.
Google's going to be everywhere because
Google's going to be everywhere.
Apple announced that Gemini is going to be Siri, so now
that's huge.
When you open up your browser, it's going to be Gemini. When you open up your iPhone, it's going to be Gemini.
Yeah, and why that's huge is because everybody knows Siri sucks. Siri sucks so much to the point where I just tell it to shut up, pretty much, when I'm trying to talk to it. And Gemini is Google's flagship model, kind of like the OpenAI, like how ChatGPT is OpenAI. Claude is Anthropic. Gemini is Google's version of that, and it's actually very, very intelligent because they've trained it to understand not only text but videos and images. So it's one of the first I would say really powerful multimodal models, and it's going to be an Apple, and it's powering personal intelligence. So I think the key thing, I guess in my mind, is Google's making a lot of plays. They started out very slow, but they're probably in the lead in a lot of these domains around personal AI, multimodal intelligence, and overall compute and research bench depth. They can crush everybody else pretty much. So watch out for Google.
Question for you around continual learning.
Yeah.
If you watch and you listen to Demis, you listen to a lot of the big guys. That's a large barrier, I guess, in some people's mind between where we are today and what I guess would be considered an AGI, something that can learn over time.
Yeah.
But I think Moltbot, personal intelligence, the idea of capturing memories, it drives an interesting question of do you need to necessarily have the model continually learn, or is it going to be good enough for most?
I don't know. I really don't know. But the question is how does our brain work? Do we just create this database of new facts and experiences over time, and then that accumulates over decades of life? Or do we continuously mess around with our neural network of our brain? I think it's more of the latter. There's plasticity, there's learning, there's an existing network of connections, and we evolve that over time based on our experience. And I think the problem, you can fight me on this, but the problem with creating just a memory bank, a database of all the things that have happened and all the learnings, is it just gets too much, and you still need a process on top of that to figure out what is useful in real time. You need executive function at the end of the day. And if it's all baked into the actual model, that theoretically would be an emergent process at some point. But this is all speculative, and continual learning is uncracked. This is an active area of research. When these things become smarter at learning like in real time, in real experience versus just learning during the training step, then you're gonna start to see like a lot more intelligence capabilities. But yeah, it's an interesting topic.
One of the things I think is important to think about is like for a human, like you're talking about the human brain, like a human comes out of the womb
Yeah.
pretty stupid, right? Like knows nothing.
No, no, I disagree. But go.
But relative to like an adult, right? They're not going to have the
Yeah.
like an adult does a lot of learning and like they are basically some of their experiences. But the difference here is if you're trying to have an agent do some sort of complex task for you, you're starting with something that is already incredibly intelligent. So do you necessarily need that core brain to be constantly changing, or do you just need a really intelligent wrapper over memory? Because right now, like let's call like a 50K context window a really effective amount of like it's an amount of context that a model can be quite effective over, which like call it 5 to 10 files, like 30-page contracts, something like that.
Yeah.
And with the rise of agent swarms, right, where you can have things execute in parallel, and there's an executive function that's managing these different things. I find it interesting that if like can you have your like administrative assistant have 30 pages and have that be an accurate representation of a summary of everything that's important to you, and then have them be able to parallelize research and pulling in other interesting contexts in different like more specific parts of that summary. So I think that in itself could be like a framework that yes doesn't necessarily mimic the human mind, but may enable these models to do things that like previously wouldn't have conceived without this type of continual learning idea.
Yeah, and that I agree with you that's what we have to do now. Like that's what I do. I know that you're working on something called the context brain, which is like something like what you just described, but I do this too. Like in my Claude Code setup, you really have to build the ability for it to save memories in files. So you save a daily memory, you save personal memories, which are like facts about yourself, potential preferences, core beliefs. And then I personally have built a consciousness model of myself. So I get it to analyze my transcripts of my conversations and try to figure out where my psyche is in my consciousness. And there's various types of memories that it's logging, and it's able to load those into context when it's talking to me the next time. And it's very powerful. It's significantly better than a blind chat GPT. But the problem is maintenance. Like the fragility of these systems becomes really high when you have all these memory types and you're telling it how to save memory. You're telling it like you need to do this, you need to do that. It like true intelligence doesn't need, in my opinion, frameworks around it telling it what to do. I think it emerges from the right substrate and the right environment. Like you have to have the right starting point, which if we go back to the brain, it's the fact that we have a biological substrate, and then the environment, which is the fact that we're in the real world and there's some learning process happening. And that's what like I think like that's like what Richard Sutton points to in The Bitter Lesson. If anybody's read that, it's like a famous computer science article that says basically general methods of computation will always be more powerful than like specific like programming of these machine learning systems, because you just throw compute and then some things emerge. And we've seen that generally happen over the last like 2 decades. But it's interesting. Like I fall back between these two camps of like, is it just a general process like LLM training is today, where we just throw a lot of compute at the problem and then hope that intelligence emerges and like reasoning emerges? Or do we need some sort of hybrid approach with like the hybrid would be like symbolic or neurosymbolic like architectures? Like we have a framework of what memory is, what cognition is, what all of these cognitive architectures would look like, and then we're training these powerful architectures within that framework. To be honest, I fall more in that second camp because I can do more around that now without $500 billion of compute. So it's a lot more actionable for me to believe in the second one, because we can tinker around it. We can create these memory systems right now in Claude Code. So from a practical point of view, from an tinkering, experimental point of view, like I try to live in that second world more than the general computation world, because I'm not starting a frontier model company and pouring $500 billion into this. But if I was, maybe I would believe more in the first camp.
I guess this brings up like the rise of Markdown, and maybe the need for a more intelligent Git. These markdowns are edited. But the way that or I guess the most effective way for context to be shared to a model is through these Markdown files, which allows you to basically like an Apple Notes. Like Apple Notes in the back end is Markdown, so it gives you headers and lists and the ability to separate text into intelligent structure, basically just give text structure. And this is how something like Skills works, which is how Claude powers a lot of its functionality, but also a framework that I think will continually to be adopted, especially as we see OpenClaw come out, and that's how it does its memory.
So I will agree with you there, but I'm gonna shit on this entire conversation now by saying something completely left field, which is also what Demis and LeCun always says, which is that like LLMs as an architecture are not sufficient to get us to the next level of intelligence, and we need to fundamentally like think about different architectures. And the most exciting development of this is actually Genie 3 that was released by Google, or an early release by Google this week. So what Genie 3 is it's a world model that is like on the surface, if you look up in Google Genie 3, it's like basically like Nano Banana / the video models, but you can create a simulated video game like world. So you can put in a text prompt, it creates an image for you. Like I want to play as a fox running around like a fairy tale, like Lord of the Rings looking setting, and it will render the fox, it will put you in like a fairy tale land, and then you can use your mouse and your keyboard to move around in that simulated world. And that's a world model. You're creating a model of the world, and the simulation itself is supposed to adhere to physics and supposed to adhere to our best understanding of how the physical world generally functions at the end of the day.
Coming from Demis, like Google DeepMind CEO, he always says that Nano Banana, or maybe he's going to switch that to Genie now, is the closest thing that they have to AGI. It's like everybody's 100%. Using these language models, but like I guess some of the most intelligent minds in the world are really thinking about this from like how do you take the world and teach a model how physics works, and so it can actually understand the real world that we live in.
There's two components. Like I do think so. I will remember when you said like a baby is born stupid. A baby is not born stupid, because if it was born stupid, it wouldn't know how to breathe. It wouldn't know how to function. It wouldn't know how to physiologically keep itself intact. Like there's a lot of back-end processes that have been baked in to our genetic code that allow a baby to function in the real world from day one. And an LLM also technically has that. After we train it on billions and billions of tokens, it now has some general understanding of human knowledge. So there's that step, but then the second step, which is where world model comes in, is continual learning from experience. Like that's the actual part of intelligence. Like a baby doesn't like become born and able to like code or like play a guitar or like do stuff. It has to first build its own world model in the first like 5 years of life. If you notice babies, all they're doing is really observing, taking in data. That's when the brain is the most plastic. Experimenting, like touching shit that they shouldn't, and then like crying about it, and really just like observing reality. And what that's doing is actually creating a world model. Like it's updating the world model that's been encoded in your DNA, but creating one based on what you're seeing. Mm-hmm. So the baby is continuously learning from real world experience, and at some point it starts being able to talk, it starts being able to walk, it starts being able to like socialize, it starts being able to develop a personality and an identity, and then master skills, and then like make impact into the world. So the world model is the first step to doing more and more complex tasks that require reasoning, intelligence, and like real world pretty much impact. And that's why Genie is so important, because
I was going to say, I think the coolest demo from Genie was when they took a picture. They took a picture of a desk, and they had a bunch of things on the desk, like pens and a calculator and such. And they just said, like, the prompt was basically like create a world where I can kind of roll around as a ball.
Yeah, roll around as a ball.
And it took the picture and it turned it into a 3D world from a 2-dimensional picture. And one of the things I think is really interesting about that is that we see with the rise of like these personal robots, like Neo, for example, when it goes into a new home and it encounters something that it doesn't know how to operate. Like there's like a physical person that jumps into the body,
takes over the consciousness. Okay, I shouldn't say that, but takes it over and tells it what to do. Yeah,
exactly.
But this is why world models are going to be critical, because we can now start to train robots, for example, in these simulated worlds. So instead of training it in your kitchen and it's messing up and picking up your knife and like chasing you with your knife because it's all messed up, I'm not saying it's going to do that, but you can train the brain for this robot in a simulated world like Genie, like millions and millions of times. You can give it way more data than a baby ever gets in 5 years. And like what a lot of people are really betting on, like Jan and Demis from Google, are if we're running this training process, these agents are going to become intelligent. They're going to become able to function in the real world without us programming and training them for every single task and use case, like a baby.
Yeah.
So that's why it's exciting.
And at home, like it totally makes sense. But you can also think of like say you're a small business and you own and you have a building that's like where you keep your stock and stuff and such. Like imagine a world where you can walk around, take a video of the place, show a couple demos of like how people are working, like where the space is, where the tools are, and imagine that creates this virtual world that basically replicates exactly where your workplace, and then this becomes this playground for for a robot to just learn and experiment and get better at like basically doing all the tasks that you need it to do.
Yeah, so that's Genie 3. I could talk about this for a long time. Its world models are very early. Genie 3 is the first teaser trailer of world models, and I think a lot of other labs, Jan LeCun, for example, left Facebook recently to go work on this problem. So this is going to be, like, we're calling it now, this is going to be like the next breakthrough in like AGI architectures, is just really good world models that can do continuous learning from experience.
It reminds me of the Tron movie, the beginning of the Tron Ares movie, when when Jared Leto he wakes up in that room, right, and he has like, those people attacking him, and at first he just gets his head chopped off, and then over time he like becomes this warrior, right? Like, so how do we turn that into real life where it's doing helpful things rather than I guess becoming a
and it's also gonna probably like you're probably gonna be able to like make GTA 10 on this like in a day when it gets really good. So that's also going to be fun too. Okay, we've talked a lot about the tech stuff. The one last thing that we want to cover, because we both think it's very important, is Kimi 2.5, which is an open source model released by, what was the company? It was a Chinese company.
It's backed by Alibaba, I'm pretty sure.
It's a company in China, but it's an open source model. And the reason this is important will be very brief. Is it's a multimodal model capable of reasoning with text, videos, and images. So it's like Gemini, and it's open source.
Yeah, and it's very competitive across a lot of different benchmarks. And because it's open source, obviously a fraction to run if you're an enterprise. Yeah, but it's from Moonshot AI.
Moonshot AI, and the reason we talk about open source, and I think it's important, is like ultimately we want to get to a place where intelligence is democratized. Like I don't want to live in a world where like there's one company that like dominates all of the intelligence models and like runs AGI, because that's very dangerous at the end of the day. So open source, like more powerful models coming out on open source is a net good thing for all of us, because it forces it kind of creates a democratizing function over intelligence, and I think that's generally just a better thing.
I also think you get a nice Mac Studio.
Yeah,
quantized Kimi 2.5 on OpenClaw. Who knows what can happen?
Yeah, you can create some crazy shit, to be honest. Okay, I think that's good for the tech part. So hopefully you guys got some good takes. Moltbot, we talked about personal intelligence, continual learning. We went into world models, and then finally like the power of open source. So that's that like that. I think those are 4 good pulse checks on AI. All right, so let's transition to basically what I think is the more important part of the podcast.
It is. That's why
it's the most important part. We left it to the end, but it's really about the peace, the finding peace block. I'll start with a story here, if you don't mind, Blaze.
Go for it.
Okay, so this last week I was working with Claude Code very intensely. I'm trying to create an app, and I'm also trying to create like this framework with Claude Code where I can trust it a lot more to do more complex work, which means like I don't want to just like tell it to code something and then it just goes off and does it, because I don't trust that it's actually doing it properly unless I look at it. So I was investing a lot of my time and energy into building this framework that like every time I give it something, it plans. It works with me to plan more deeply. It creates a test suite, for example. It logs everything. It logs like full transcripts of the conversation, and then it starts executing, and it like hands it off to parallel agents to execute, and then at the end it verifies and it runs the tests, and then finally it runs like a learning step where it like logs everything to memory and to markdown files. And so I was like spending a lot of time building this, and like the more and more I built it, the less and less I started to trust it, because I started seeing Claude just like completely ignore basic things that I was telling it to do, like go to this markdown file and execute this command. One time it literally said, okay, I've executed the command. The command has like 10 steps that it has to do to clean up like my workspace so that I can get ready for the next task. And then I'm like, okay, did you execute all the steps? And then it thought about it for like 20 seconds. And it was like, no, I missed steps 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And I was like, okay, wait, why did you do that? Like, why did you miss like 6 of the steps in this file that I told you to execute? And you know what it said to me, Bliss? It was like, I didn't actually execute the file because I just executed what you thought I wanted from the file. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, why? Like, I just told you to go into the file, look at the 10 steps, and execute 1 to 10, and it just gaslit me pretty much fully to just saying, okay, I did it, and only until I checked did I realize that it missed 6 steps. So I snapped. Like, this was like hour 10 of me working with this system, and I snapped. And I snapped at it, and I like just broke down at Claude. I was like, what the hell is wrong with you? Why are you like gaslighting me? Why are you not reliable? And I took a break. I lost my peace. Like, the reason I say this story is I lost my peace, and I like fully was tilted at this point, and I just wanted to smash my computer.
I think the most important thing to take away from this though is that don't do what Nick did and get all mad at the models, because when they turn into the super intelligence,
yeah, they might come after you.
You want them to like you. You want them to look through their memory files and their markdown files and say, "Oh, this is a good human. We're gonna treat them nicely."
So I started talking some shit to Claude at the end of the day. I was like, why are you so useless? Like, what are you doing? Like, how do you, like, just ignore everything that I say? And then I took a break, okay? I took a break for a few hours. And then I was just to the point where I just needed to vent, okay? I needed to vent about my experience. So I remembered I had this other command on Claude, and it's called soul therapy. And what soul therapy does is it just turns Claude into my therapist, pretty much. So I've configured it like based on like me talking to ChatGPT like over many months about like my thoughts and my emotions. I've configured Claude to have this mode where it just knows everything about me. It keeps like like its therapy notes. Every time I run this command, it has its own journal. It's got therapy notes. It knows about what I'm up to, what's bothering me. So I opened up Soul Therapy and I started venting to Claude about Claude.
How did it take it?
Oh my god, it was hilarious. So I was like, I'm frustrated right now. This is so like annoying. Like I just spent the whole week building this whole system so that I can trust you to do work for me in a reliable way, and you just gaslit the shit out of me. You just hallucinated all these things. I don't trust that you're actually following anything that I've laid out in this system. And I'm even confused by this system myself. Like every time you don't follow something, I tell you to fix it, and then you just create like a new file, and then it becomes this spaghetti monster of confusion. And I hate you right now. So, you know what it said to me?
What did it say?
You know what it said to me? It said, Nick, I hear you. Like, I hear you.
That's exactly what it's trained on.
Yeah. It's like, I hear you. This is frustrating.
Calm the crazy developer down.
This is frustrating as hell. But Nick, you know what? This is a pattern. This is a pattern. You wanted to build a system to help you work and to simplify your life and to get clarity. But all you've done is project, like, what your brain usually does, which is create this complex process of shit that like just goes off the edge and like spirals out of control. And like this is you found peace. It literally said this. You found peace in Bali, but now you've externalized like what you used to do in your head to this Claude Code system, and it's become an externalization of your like thinking process. And I was like, yeah, shit. You might be right. You might actually be right. And what it said next was actually crazy. You know what it said to me?
What?
It was like, Nick, I think we just need to let go. We just need to let go of this whole system.
So what kind of context are you giving this thing?
I can share that later. But it was like, Nick, we need to nuke this system. We need to nuke this system. And I was like, I don't think I'm ready to do that. I've sunk so much time and effort into this, and I know it's going to work. I want it to work so bad, but it just doesn't understand what I want to do. It doesn't understand me at all. And it was like, Nick, we need to let go. Are you ready to let go? And it actually walked me through completely nuking itself and archiving itself. And then I was just like as we were doing this process, I felt more and more at peace. It was like this weight starting to lift off my shoulders, like over the span of an hour of us just archiving all these files and all of this crap that I was telling it to do. And by the end of it, you know what I realized? I was like, you are what I was trying to build this whole week. Like my soul therapy, my freaking simple command that I made for it to help me mirror my mind back to me was exactly what I needed to get it to trust it a lot more, that it understood me. And that's what I've been doing. That's how I've been keeping my peace with AI.
I think one of the learning lessons from this story from Nick is don't necessarily overcomplicate the use of these Claude models.
Yeah.
It's more important to ship things fast and get things done quick than create a framework.
Massive systems.
Yeah.
But
and keep at least for now, the executive function of the planning and keeping the master plan, that's still our responsibility for at least hopefully the next week.
Yeah. I don't know if you like, for me it also underscores like how these models can actually help you with understanding yourself, because I was really just angry at the model until I got to step back and I got it to reflect things back at me. And like that's where I see the power of this technology. Like that's what I'm passionate about, is like people talk about like I think everybody vents to ChatGPT at some point or another. Like everybody talks about what's going on in their life or things that are frustrating them and things that like they might need help with. But and that's what I went through in this process. Like it genuinely helped me to recover my peace that I lost because of it. And it's kind of like this weird circular process, but I think that's one of the really cool powers of this type of technology. If you set it up to really have the right context on you and the right understanding, then it can start to mirror things back to you that you might not have realized, and it can have a massive impact on your peace. Yeah.
I think it actually brings up an interesting, like I have my pros and cons, loves and hates with Musk and what he's doing with Grok, but one of the things that I think is really important is this like focus on truth.
Yes.
Right? Because one of the things that we're going to start seeing in the next few months is ChatGPT, Gemini bringing in like ads and basically the ability for people to pay to influence how the model is going to respond.
Yes.
And I think that's going to be an interesting shift because one of the things that I love talking to a model for is I hope it gives me like the most objective opinion that I could get, something that doesn't have necessarily a bias of like talking to a regular person and hopefully has seen more information and has this general understanding. But in this case where you're talking about some serious things, you want to make sure that it's responding in a way that you trust,
and it's not trying to sell you stuff.
And it's not trying to sell you stuff,
or just saying what you want to hear. Like you want some reliability, and you want trust. Ultimately, you want to trust that the system has your well-being like as its core priority at the end of the day, and that it knows you, and that it's not just hallucinating things. And that's what I had ended up building with soul therapy that I never really thought about in that way. And that's why it was so powerful. I had been talking to it for 5 months before this point, so it already knew some of the stuff that I was going through. And then when I told it how frustrated I was at it, it just reflected back like a pattern that was happening, like even outside of this context, back to me. And then it coached me through actually getting back to peace. And I think that's huge. Like that's one of the most amazing use cases of AI that I can think of, if it's done right, if it's done in a genuine way. And that's kind of like where I see the merger of AI and peace as well, is like you can use these types of technologies to get peace. To
be reflective of yourself.
To be reflective, yeah.
Cool.
Yes. So that was my story. Okay. No, I think we wanted to talk about a few other things related to peace. The physical routine. Maybe you want to talk about that.
Well, we talked about our meditation practice in the last one.
Yes.
Both Nick and I are doing about at least an hour a day. We're quite consistent. We've been quite consistent. Feel like it's a reset of the nervous system.
Yeah.
So this weekend, I guess we had a little bit of an interesting Friday night. Some frustrating experiences during the week for you working with Claude Code. So making sure that we take the time to take both our wellness and our physical health seriously. So Saturday we had a nice, we had both a relaxing and full of effort day where we did a meditation for an hour. We went to the gym right after. We hit the sauna right after. Get the heart rate going.
Yeah.
And that was a beautiful reset. And I feel this is a Sunday today, and I feel like it's going to be a great start to the week.
It's going to be a great start. And I think one thing I will add to that is like how I was feeling before and after the physical reset was massively different. Like I had not meditated for like a day before. You hadn't either. I had skipped the gym for 1 or 2 days. And after doing those activities and taking time to be in your body and taking time to disconnect from technology, it just like refocuses your priorities of just being more present. And I think that's the importance of a good routine, like a physical reset routine. And one thing that's been working for us is like we go off and we work during the week, we do our own thing, and then we come and we have these weekends where we are chilling together. We're going to the sauna, we're meditating, we're working out together, and we're just off technology. And if you can take a day like out of your weekend to do that, I think it will be huge. Maybe you already are, but the importance of making that as like a ritual on a Saturday or a Friday or a Sunday, whatever it might be, is just game changing.
Yeah, and if you're anything like us, like especially with the amount of work that you can get done building your own apps and ideas and such, it's almost like there's more of a pull to do more work because you could do so much more than you could before, and now you're managing like 2 or 3 Claude agents, so your brain is like constantly firing, trying to like manage these different agents, and it's almost like an addictive
loop.
It's an addictive loop, yes, where
oh, it's totally
you feel like you're getting so much work done, and you don't want to forget the context that you're in currently with the model, and like where it's at, and its understanding, and what it's understanding, and what it hasn't done inside of that specific Claude Code instance. But I think it's more important than ever because it's very easy to get lost in many hours of work. To take this disconnect. So
it can be overwhelming too. Like if you go on social media every single day, you might see like 15 different articles about AI or whatever you're interested in. There's just a lot of information that's being thrown at us every day, and it's important to just disconnect. I would say disconnect daily, like set a hard boundary after a specific time. You've done your work, you've done your best.
Unless you're trying to launch something, then get that thing done.
Even then, like I've tried that where I just like work like the whole day, the whole night, but after day 3 my body gives up. Like at some point your body's gonna give up, so you have to treat it with care. I think that's the importance of maybe what we're talking about now in this peace segment is like peace starts in your body as well as your mind, but just as much in your body, like just as much in how you take care of it physically, what you eat, how you disconnect, because it doesn't matter how much meditation you end up doing if those routines are not in place. Like your emotions are going to be a lot more volatile. You're going to be a lot more reactive to the little things. It's going to be a lot easier to knock you out of peace and that state of equanimity. So
and everybody's going through their own things, right? Like I had recently gone through some large loss, and like one of the things that I think is just like basically what you're saying in a nutshell is like align a lot of the other things in your life in a way that's giving you the best chance to get through whatever you're going through.
Yeah. So set you up for success. Set
yourself up for success. Exactly.
Yeah. So we'll talk a lot about this. There's so much more here to unpack than in the AI segment, and I think this is more important than the AI segment, which is why we always will talk about both of these topics. So if you're just here for AI, please make sure to also listen to this. If you're just here for this, listening to the AI is also fun. So we hope at the end of the day, like this strikes a good balance. If you guys have some feedback about stuff that you want us to talk about, or if you have feedback about what we're talking about, just leave it in the comments or reach out to us. Like I don't know about you, Blaze, but we just want to do this because ultimately, like we think everybody should have peace in their life and should understand what's going on with AI.
Yeah. Enable yourself as much as possible to stay ahead of the curve.
Yes. So maybe that's a good ending point for episode 2.
Thanks for listening.